Good morning and welcome to the Creativity, Thinking, and Education podcast with your host, Patricia Rose Upsack. Today we have the honor of interviewing Caroline Sutherland. Caroline is a medical intuitive, author, radio host, teacher, and innovative leader in the fields of nutrition and energy medicine. She is the popular Hay House author of the Body Knows book series. Caroline has a vast clinical background as an allergy testing technician in environmental medicine, where her intuitive gift developed. In the early 1980s, while working as a physician's assistant, she began to receive intuitive impressions about the patients, an experience which groomed her to become one of the most sought-after medical intuitives today. Caroline was raised in a medical family. Both her father and grandfather were medical doctors. As a child, the blueprint of her family lineage created important seeds for her future career as a medical intuitive. For over 30 years, she has lectured internationally on the subject of health education and medical intuition, and her intuitive impressions have positively affected the lives of thousands of people. We are so thrilled to be able to talk to her. Good morning. How are you doing?
Oh, Patricia, thank you so much. Wonderful to be with you. I appreciate it.
So, first of all, because I want to be sure that we don't lose you and people can't find you, could you give us the name of your website?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So it's my name, Caroline, Caroline, Sutherland, S for Sam, UTHERLAND.com.
All right. Caroline?
Patricia, that's a great question. How I got started, and a lot of people get started on their true work very serendipitously, and that happened for me long ago when I was in my 30s. I was starting to have the early warning signs of a serious illness, multiple sclerosis. And I went to my medical doctor, and she said, I'm not going to rule out multiple sclerosis, but I am going to send you to a specialist who is involved in a special branch of medicine called environmental medicine. And I went off to this particular physician. I had a lot of testing done, primarily for foods and primarily for something called the Candida yeast syndrome or chronic candidiasis, which it turned out I was dealing with. And all of my symptoms that pointed to MS really were related to candidiasis and food sensitivities. So I cleaned up my diet and went on a treatment, special treatment, medical treatment for Candida. And I was well in 4 weeks. I lost 15 pounds. I felt fabulous, better than I felt in years. And all of my symptoms went away. And I was enchanted. What happened? I was very, very captivated. At that time, I was a newspaper writer. I wrote fashion and interior design for a major city newspaper. And I left that whole area of interest and started to delve into alternative medicine. And because I had come from a medical family, I was oriented toward health and well-being, but I had no idea that all of this applied to myself. So I started writing and researching, and lo and behold, the physician who was treating me asked me to come and work as his assistant in his office, which I did. I learned to use subtle energy equipment from Germany for allergy testing, which then was incorporated into the clinical setting, and I was involved in the hands-on testing and treatment of about 55,000 patient visits prior to leaving that clinical setting and going out on the road by myself and working with education for the mainstream public. So it was a very, very strong clinical background. It started out with my own health, which of course has been vibrant ever since. I'm now in my early 70s and I enjoy a very, very high level of great health. And I am very grateful to all of the pieces and the elements that were brought into my life to steer me in this career direction.
That's just amazing. I mean, I love listening to you talk, but I suppose I should be saying something too, but you are remarkable. Thank you. So could you tell us a little bit about your books?
Yes. Well, I knew that at some point I would be writing a book, and I had no idea that I would meet Louise Hay very serendipitously. In 1999, she just sort of appeared in front of me, and she was there for me to do a consultation for her. And what happens for me when I'm with people, I pick up imbalances very, very quickly. And what I learned in a clinical setting is There's really nothing wrong with a patient, and I'm talking about somebody with chronic illness. I'm not talking about somebody with acute illness like tonsillitis or appendicitis or something like that. I'm talking about chronic illness for which mainstream medicine does not have any solutions.
Right.
So I'm able to I just look at a person and I just go, if they would stop doing this, and this person would be well, or they'd lose 15 pounds, or they'd have their memory back. I just look at people and I get a sense of an imbalance, and I'm more interested in correction, because really there's nothing wrong. That's the body that's having a period of time where they're in an imbalanced state. And if we know what to do to correct the body, and usually it's very simple, sorry to say, other people will say, well, the body's very complex and it's this and this and this. Well, yes, but sorry to say, it's usually a lot more simple than we think. And so with some simple corrections that are mainly very practical suggestions, practical corrections, that body, in my view, will correct. And I believe, and I've always believed this, that the body has a phenomenal capacity to repair at any age. It is not just, for young people, at any age. When Louise Hay came to me, she was in her 70s, and she was corrected and well on her journey for correction within 14 days. So, the body knows what to do. And so I knew I was going to write a book, and I met Louise Hay. She was very impressed, and she was the one that asked me to write my book, my first book, and that Hay House would publish it. It was a tremendous honor, and usually authors don't have that chance. The opportunity that I had in those days was presented to me very serendipitously, and it was a tremendous honor and a privilege, and Louise Hay has been a close personal ally ever since.
Well, yes. Can you tell us the titles of your books?
Yes, all my books are called The Body Knows, based on the fact that the body has a wisdom. The Body Knows, Knows.
Okay.
And so I've got lots of books. The Body Knows how to tune into your body and improve your health. The Body Knows how to stay young. The Body Knows about hormones. The Body Knows cookbook. The Body Knows diet book. So all of my books are based on the principle, the body knows.
You realize you're talking about one of my biggest weaknesses, which is buying books. I mean, I have thousands of books.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, oh, no, I'm going to have to go out and buy like all of these. Well, the thing that's interesting is I'm a Reiki master, and I'm not like a new Reiki master. I've been a Reiki person since 1985, and I follow the traditional method. So when I became a Reiki master, I had to go through a lot of training for a long time. And everything that you just said about it's actually very simple, I think is true. I think the body has an innate knowledge, and we just have to learn how to figure out what that is and follow that path. And it sounds like you have some wonderful information that will help people do that.
Well, I think one of the things that people can learn, and it's free, is they can learn to use a simple method of self-testing, either muscle testing, kinesiology that's done with some simple hand way of testing,
right.
Or they can learn to use a pendulum, or they can actually put their hand on a certain part of their body and tune into it and check the level of health and well-being in that particular organ or system. These things are very easy to learn, and all of my books, The Body Knows, teach people how to do these things, because I believe we have to be personally empowered, and I know you do as well, Patricia.
Right.
Personally empowering people to do this for themselves, so we're not running off looking for practitioner after practitioner, that we can get a sense of imbalances by ourselves, tuning into ourselves, and then saying, this is really beyond my level of expertise. I am going to look for the appropriate practitioner to help me with this particular leg of the journey. So I love to teach. It's practical, and everyone has this ability to be able to be insightful or intuitive around their body. It's not just the domain of a few gifted people. Everyone has this ability, and I do a training. This year, it's an online medical intuitive training. Uh-huh. I do that every single year in October, and people come from all over the world, and in this case, they'll be coming onto an online webinar from all over the world, and I love to teach this, because in 2 days, it's teachable, it's downloadable, and it's done, and people are off to the races, and they're tuning in, and they're picking up imbalances, and then we give them practical suggestions on what to do for correction. So it's not just, oh my goodness, there's an imbalance. Now what I do? What do I do? We teach them. These are some suggestions for correction.
So could you tell us a little bit about when your webinar is happening this year?
Yes, it's October 15th and 16th. And they can register through the website, carolinesutherland.com. We have people coming from all over the world, as I mentioned, and I just take a small number of people. I find I have better connection and interaction with people if I only take a small number.
Right. Okay. That sounds good.
Yes.
You also have a newsletter. Do you want to tell us about your newsletter? Can you see?
Yes.
I want to be sure our audience gets every bit of information about you so that we can really make sure that they find you.
Oh, that's very kind and very thoughtful. I do have a newsletter that comes out seasonally. We just did our newsletter for the fall. So that's just out now, and all the newsletters are on the website. So that's really easy for people to be able to get those newsletters.
Okay.
And so they're all there archived. And I used to do a monthly newsletter, but oh boy, do you think that was something that was hard to keep up with? I don't know that I was really all that successful at being able to keep up with the monthly newsletter. So I went to seasonal, which I think is really nice for people. I have that. And then I have free things for people. Every Monday morning, I have a radio show where people can come onto the show and they can get free information, great guests talking about hormone balancing, talking about, different areas and aspects of health. And then I have a free teleconference every Monday night. So Mondays are my day to be my Caroline Sutherland days. So I offer that for people. And I think it's great. People should be able to get free advice, free health, free spot readings. I do my best to be a person who really does give back.
So you're talking about your radio shows and the other things you're doing on Mondays. How do people find those, and how do they sign in? What do they do?
Oh, that's easy. They just go to my website, carolinesutherland.com, and they can go to radio show. The details are given to them right then and there, the phone number and so forth.
Okay.
And then the teleconference, they have to register for the teleconference. They're given a telephone number, or they can sign in and register for that on their computer as well. So it's easy for people, and people love it, and they just know Monday is the day, and I have that designated for my give back time for people.
Oh, that's wonderful. So the other thing is not, do you ever do any events? Like, do you go places where people can take classes and see you, or is it all online?
All of my classes are online, but having said that I'm not, I pulled myself off the lecture circuit a couple of years ago just because it's hard. It's just, it's a lot of travel in and out of airports and hotels and so forth. And I thought, I don't really want to be doing this anymore.
Right.
And wanting to work from my home office as much as I can. But having said that, I'll be doing 2 events almost back to back in Seattle coming up. One in January, the 29th of January, and another one on the 17th of March. So those are 2 events that I know for sure I'm doing in Seattle.
And what are those events?
Well, one is at the Unity of Bellevue, the Unity Church in Bellevue.
Oh, I love Unity.
Yes, Unity is a wonderful philosophy. It's sort of a new thought kind of spiritual, I wouldn't want to say, practice. It's a new thought. It's based on the principles, Christian principles, but it's new thought. And people who have been kind of, what's the word I want to say, have had kind of a rough time with traditional religion, they really enjoy Unity because it's based on the principle of our thoughts create our world, and that is highlighted in the Unity. And they're great fun, vibrant congregations with wonderful music and a wonderful message. And this particular Unity minister, Paul Tenalia, used to be in New York, and I went and spoke at his congregation in New York several times, and now he's in Seattle. So he said, come on down to Bellevue and we'll do an event. So I'm doing that one. And then I'm doing a teamed event with Melinda Vale. And Melinda Vale is a psychic medium from Arizona. And she is a very skilled person who works with law enforcement in Arizona in locating missing children and missing people. And she's very insightful, mostly around spiritual connections that people have and potentially connecting with deceased loved ones, etc. Right. And her promoter in Arizona has asked me to come and join Melinda Vale and do a workshop in Seattle as well on the 17th of March related to medical intuition. So we can be psychic around people potentially who've passed on to the other side, and we can also be psychic or very intuitive around our own physical bodies. So we're going to team together, Melinda and I, in March.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. So one of the questions that I have for you, because I think that you probably can answer it, is that a lot of people, and you've already touched on this when you said, that people need to trust that they actually can tune into their own body or their feelings, things like that. If you had advice for people that kind of think that they know something's going on, but people poo-poo them or make them feel bad about the possibilities that they, can help heal their own bodies. People starting out, not necessarily at your level, but just, in their own kind of trying to learn how to help keep their bodies balanced and well, that kind of thing. Any ideas?
The first starting point is always related to energy.
Okay.
The first place that a person can work with themselves is always, what is the level of my energy on a scale of 1 to 10? And if it's not an 8, 9, or 10, the first place is to look at diet. What is the person eating and what will take their energy? Sugar right away will take their energy. If they're having a sweet dessert, if they're having a donut for breakfast, bye-bye energy. So the first thing you want to do is correct the diet, get well away from the sugar. I think fruit is okay, not a massive amount of fruit, but a piece of fruit every day is absolutely fine. Uh-huh. And then there are other things that take energy that are surprising. Caffeine, coffee, takes energy. It doesn't give energy, it takes it away. And wheat or any flour-based product like bread, cookies, crackers, pasta, you name it. Anything that's made from wheat flour will take energy. It will not give energy, it takes it. So those are the three big things that people can look at that take energy on a physical level. And then on an emotional level, where is the energy dissipating? And so that's easy. Put your hand on your heart and ask the question, what is my personal level of happiness in my relationship? And that should be 10 out of 10. What is my personal level of happiness in my work? And that should be a 10 out of 10. But if you really do that inner examination and put your hand on your heart and ask the question, a lot of times when it comes to work, it can be, maybe a 5 or 6 if you're lucky, and the same with a relationship. So that means you've got 100% energy being given to you every day, but 50% of it or 40% of it is being dissipated out into the angst of earning a living and or being in a relationship that's not satisfying.
Mm-hmm. And so that's wonderful and great advice. Do you have, so they do the thing, they put their hands on the heart and they get intuitive energy and wisdom. Are there, if let's say that they listen to you and they go to your website and they read your books, is there any kind of organizations that are local that kind of help promote this way of thinking that you know of?
I do not know of any, but I'm sure there are lots because there are lots of people who are exploring the world of medical intuition.
Right.
One of the places that I can send people to for just a lovely, lovely connection every single day, and that is Daily Om, DAILYOM. Daily Om is a website with information and just a very nice little email that comes in with a message that's uplifting and inspiring every day. Uh-huh. So that can be a good resource for people to connect. And I know there are people that join different Facebook, circles of Facebook
right.
and so forth.
Right.
And I, of course, have a great Facebook presence, and then also very much have a, we do Instagram messaging on Twitter and so forth. And Instagram, which I think is a great way for people. And then, of course, I have my training once a year, and people can always call into my radio shows and teleconferences and ask questions. And so that's always a great way of getting information. I believe that this information should be free of charge, and people should not be having to pay for it.
Right, right. Well, you are just spectacular. Is there anything, if you could ask one question, I mean, okay, if you could look at the future and say, what I would really like to see happen is, and it can be about anything that you are passionate about, what would that be?
That would be for people to, and this sounds like a hard word, but for people to take their health more seriously. I see people and talk to people every single day where they have been given a diagnosis and they're squandering their energy, squandering their lives, squandering their money on food that does not support them, on a lifestyle that does not support them, a lifestyle that's not healthy, their choices aren't healthy. And I really, that's what I would absolutely love, is for people to just jump on board onto the health bandwagon and let's get everybody healthy. And it's not that difficult to do, and it's really, really fun. But people, oh, well, I'd rather have this donut, or I'd rather go out with my friend and have a glass of wine and a piece of pie. I mean, sure, you can do that once in a while, but not every single day. And that's what I see is that people don't get how finite this life is, how short it is, how it goes by like the wink of an eye, and how we're given this window of time to be able to lay our piece of patchwork on the planet and to do what it is we are called and guided to do here in this world. And yet people don't really get that, and they don't make a strong enough commitment to really staying healthy and being on the planet and do what they love to do for as long as they can. So that would be my goal and my desire, Patricia.
Oh, I love that. That's wonderful. So the thing is, I live in the Rocky Mountains, and as I told you, I live at 9,000 feet and can see the Continental Divide, and all the aspens are turning gold. And so I love October because it's so pretty. But I'm spoiled rotten because 20 miles away is Boulder, and Boulder has, I figured out they have 5 what other cities consider alternative grocery stores. They have Whole Foods, they have Trader Joe's, they have Vitamin College, they have alfalfa. I mean, the list is like endless. And I thought, the kind of food that you're talking about and the things that you kind of are promoting are really easily available to me. But one of the things that I've had people tell me when I've counseled them or talked to them about things is, well, that's hard to get. Like people in the South, for example, have a very difficult time finding even some of the things that I consider basic. They'd have to make their own. But I agree with you. I think if you can get them to, because the thing is that they're surrounded by other people who have the same thing that they do, and they eat the same things that they do. So it's kind of like the mass consciousness, I guess. Then they say, well, it's not that bad. And it's not that it's bad. It's just that we all have, we have the ability and we have the right to live viable, vital, healthy lives. And I do think that maybe, well, at least here, it's actually the tide has turned. Like when I first started Reiki in 1985, nobody had ever heard of Reiki.
No,
and
that's right.
They thought I was, what, you have a rake? What do you do? And the thing is I was a teacher in a big high school, and so they really didn't know what to do, because here was this quote unquote basic, smart, kind of put together, stable woman running around doing something weird called Reiki, which was alternative energy. But now, if somebody says, what do you do? I can say, well, one of the things I do is I'm a Reiki master and I teach classes up in the mountains. And they go, oh, I've heard of that. Isn't that like where, you help people heal and speed up their energy and things like that? Well, 25 years ago, nobody knew what it was. So I think what you're doing and what you're talking about, I think it is growing. And I think you've probably seen that there are a lot more people that totally trust and believe what you're talking about now, whereas 30 years ago, they probably wondered what you were talking about.
Yes, but I think you bring up a really good point for anyone in this field. when you first start out, it's kind of 111, and you're just wondering how's this all going to go. But you have what's called spiritual guidance. You have your instincts. You know you're on the right track. And if you just start tilling the soil in your part of the vineyard, and when everyone, people come up and say they think you're crazy and you're just right off the wall, just smile and be kind to them, and you know in your heart it's the right thing. And then eventually, just like Noah and the ark starts to float and all the people want to climb on, and that's exactly what's going on now in terms of complementary and alternative health strategies.
Right. Well, the reason I'm laughing is because one of my youngest grandson, one of his favorite movies is called Evan Almighty, and it's like about Steve Carroll, I think his name is the modern day Noah, and he has to build an ark. So it was funny.
Yes. That's right.
Carolyn, this has been just wonderful, and I so appreciate you. And I would like you to to tell us again your website so that people know how to contact you. And we will be putting this up, and everyone is going to be saying, "Well, I heard about you from the podcast."
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much again. It's a tremendous privilege. I love doing interviews and spreading the word and connecting with great people who are doing the very same thing. And so my website is CarolineSutherland.com, Caroline, Sutherland, S for Sam, UTHERLAND, CarolineSutherland.com. And I welcome people to the website and to my Monday radio show and teleconference anytime. Always a pleasure to connect with everyone.
That sounds wonderful. And I will be one of those people calling to your radio show because I'm fascinated. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye. Thank you for joining me here at the Creativity, Thinking, and Education podcast. Please visit us at happyteachershappystudents.com. And if you find value in this podcast and the message that we're trying to spread, then click the subscribe button and give my show a review. I am so excited to be able to share the timeless awareness of so many amazing guests.